Alright, so today's deck profile, I'm going to be showing off a list of Nekroz that are designed to go second. As such, we're running some interesting gimmicks here. Nekroz of Sophia lets us discard it and another Nekroz ritual spell to lock our opponent out of special summoning extra deck monsters during the main phase 1. This means that if the opponent is going first, they will not be able to go into main phase 2 and be locked out of the extra deck for the entire first turn. This is, of course, an absurdly powerful hand trap that is unique to Nekroz. Of course, we do have to run a whole lot of ritual spells to make it happen. Even with all of this we're running, it's still only about a 1 in 5 chance. But man, that 1 in 5 chance going off is absurd. Let's say you're playing against Sun Avalon. They normal summon their Seed Boy, and then you chain Nekroz of Sophia. They lose the entire turn, and you have knowledge of what they're playing. Of course, with the actual ritual spell ratios, we're running 3 Kaleidoscope, as it's going to let us send cards from our extra deck to the graveyard, and while the other 2 let us recur and reuse Nekroz's in the graveyard already. Now for the actual Nekroz ratios, 2 Trishula, 3 Bryanak, 3 Unicorn, 1 Colossus, and 1 Shurag. Nekroz of Trishula is going to be our big remover. Nekroz of Trishula is going to let us do some amazing removal. 1 from hand, 1 from field, and 1 from grave. The hardest part about Trishula is getting an opponent to commit to putting cards in grave, especially after we Sophia them. It's not actually the biggest end of the world, but it does sometimes end up like that. Bryanak is going to be both our main removal of extra deck monsters, as well as our main searcher for these 2 cards. Colossus is going to search our ritual spells, and Unicorn is the big negator. When Nekroz of Unicorn is on the field, negate the effects of all monsters special summoned from the extra deck. This is absurd and nuts. And there's some combos we can do with this to make it uninteractable for our opponent. Plus, he can also be discarded to add any Nekroz card from grave back to hand, which is really useful in grind games. Sure, it lets him count for the entire tribute of a card, so if we want to just go into Trishula without having to do any shenanigans, we can just search Shurag, tribute Shurag, special Trishula. And sure, it does still work when banished from grave with Mirror. Now, the biggest combo you can go for in Nekroz is if you have Trishula and Bryanak, you can go Bryanak, discard, search Colossus, Colossus, search Nekroz Mirror, activate Mirror, banish these 2, special Trishula. This is going to come up a lot, like almost every game a lot, so do keep in mind you can do that. Of course, to give us some additional searchers, we're running 3 Preparation of Rites. Now, this card right here, Dance Princess of the Nekroz, is one of the funniest cards you can play in Nekroz. It reads, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of Nekroz ritual spell cards. Nekroz ritual monsters you control cannot be targeted by an opponent's card effects. And then, when it's tributed, you can recur one of your banished Nekroz monsters. So what this means, if our opponent makes a big board of extra deck monsters, we can normal this. If our opponent only has Omni Negates, they can't respond to the normal here, because it is an inherent effect. And then we can do something like, let's say, Kaleidoscope, which they also can't respond to because of Dance Princess. And then we can special summon Unicorn, who will then leave our opponent's entire board of extra deck monsters negated. This is an absurdly funny combo that works way more than it should. And a bigger thing, if you'll notice, these 2 are water monsters, giving us access to both Bahamut Shark and then Toad, if we need to do that. Of course, supporting Nekroz, as Nekroz as their own haven't been really good since like 2015, we need to run a bit of backup. And I'm going to run 3 Nadir Servant, and then 1 of each of the main Dogmatika engine cards. So 1 Ecclesia might seem a little odd, but that is really just because this engine is only good with Nadir Servant. You only really want to see Nadir Servant. These are fine. We can work with these. But man, Nadir Servant or bust. Of course, we are playing a Shadal package, which, let me explain that real quick. If we send Alpacone from deck to graveyard, either using Nekroz Kaleidoscope or Nadir Servant, we get to search Shadal Schism, which will then let us go into either Antoinillus or Winda, depending on what we have in grave. Now, I am playing Maximus to combo off with the fact that we have 3 Heralds. It can work. Do not underrate it. Just make sure you know what your opponent's playing before you try that. Lastly, backing up our go second strategy is just some generically powerful go second cards. 3 Lava Golem, 3 Dark Ruler, no more. Lava Golem is going to let us tribute our opponent's monsters. If you'll notice, since we're playing a ritual deck, we don't really need the normal summon, and we just have options in case we want to extend. So Lava Golem can just do around that anyway. Dark Ruler no more is going to let us just negate our opponent's entire field. Very self-explanatory card. We can't really play Forbidden Droplets in this deck since we need as much hand advantage as possible since we are a ritual deck. So sticking to single card blowouts is really what we have to do. Now, on to the extra deck. As mentioned before, this is our Shaddoll extra deck. So one of the big focuses is making sure we have different levels to summon off of Nekroz Kaleidoscope. Now, Nekroz Kaleidoscope has the gimmick of being able to summon multiple Nekroz monsters in one go. So key combinations of levels like 2 level 4s, level 4, and level 6 are going to be really important here. A backup level 6, we have the Skull Warrior. He's going to let us banish him from graveyard later in the game to pop a spell or trap. Natis, pretty self-explanatory. Extra removal makes probably going to be our number 1 target off of Nadir Servant. Bahamut Shark, if we need that negate, we're totally awesome. Omega, this is very specifically. So if we have 2 Nekroz of Unicorn in our hand we want a ritual summon, we can do it with Kaleidoscope still. 3 Herald of the Arclight. We're just trying to send this as much as possible. And now for our Link monsters. 1 Cross Sheep for draw power because we're a ritual deck, of course. Man, we can even go into the Shaddoll engine with it. Dynamoto is a really good ritual Link. When he's ritual summoned, he lets us shuffle back a ritual monster from our graveyard to shuffle back a card our opponent controls. And then he can get back any of our ritual monsters from graveyard that were summoned correctly already. Very cool card here. Underrated and helps ritual decks a lot more than most people give it credit for. Neftivus, the Sacred Flame. This is a bit of a meme option, but it's a really funny one. It becomes progressively more and more of a Towers monster, depending on how many ritual monsters you use in its summon. It doesn't come up a lot, but there are some decks that do struggle to out Towers monsters, and this is really funny to just give them that, like, mental panic. And lastly, Bulbasaur Dragon for OTKs. It comes up. It's not the most common thing in the extra deck. And really, most of the links are just weird option edge cases, but you want to make sure you're ready. Playing a going second deck, you have to be on guard for just the most random things. And well, that's about it. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to check out the main channel if you want more in-depth and more well-edited Yu-Gi-Oh content. And that's all. I'll see you guys next time.